Today I'm here with Rob Williamson, Managing Director of Alpha HPA, pioneering ultra-high purity alumina.
We have a technology that's been homegrown here in Australia. These transformers were being delivered. They were on a big long semi-truck train, went straight through it. $400 million on building this plant. Everything that you should not do, they sort of did. And when I got there, I was like, we need to shut this down and actually fix it. Uranium and thorium, which are radioactive metals, we can remove them out. I was in a Facebook data center in the US actually a few years ago. They heat their whole property with heat from the data center.
Really?
In the winter.
They generate their heat from trying to cool down the data center.
Yeah.
Today I'm here with Rob Williamson, Managing Director of Alpha HPA, pioneering ultra-high purity alumina, a breakthrough that could transform batteries, semiconductors, and tech world as we know it. Rob, thanks for coming on.
Great to be here, Sam. Yeah, it's great to meet you, mate.
Now, Rob, you didn't start in these big tech roles. You actually started as an engineer.
Yeah.
I believe. What were those early days like?
Yeah, I'm knuckle dragging mechanical engineer, Sam, and I started out actually in the zinc business. I was in the zinc industry for 20 years, and even prior to that, I did a little bit of wood chipping for a wood chipping company in Tasmania. This old fella called Shags.
Yeah.
So, took me under his wing. I introduced him to computers, which was interesting. But
wood chipping.
Wood chipping. Yeah. So I'm from Tassie, and Tassie's at the time back in the 90s was, and even in the 80s, it was big wood chipping industry, pulp and paper. Made newsprint paper for newspapers and stuff. Things that we don't necessarily think about as much these days. But, it was a huge export of wood chips to Japan actually, and they would make this high quality paper out of these particular wood chips from Tassie. But so I started in that, sort of tooling around, and then got my degree at Tas Uni, and started in the zinc business. So I worked my way up through that, and I think I switched over, came into this after 20 years in the zinc business, and it's been fantastic. So Alpha's just a much more future focused business. The zinc industry has been around for a century or more.
Interesting. So you've gone from wood chips to zinc to ultra high purified aluminum. Yeah. I feel like wood chips and this breaking edge technology. Like, how do you find your way through that world?
Yeah, so I think I've been like more of a, I wouldn't say I'm the details guy necessarily. I've been more of project management, and then really there was a point in time where I switched over into sort of frontline leadership, if you will, within the zinc, back in the days in the zinc business. And I was a very young, what they call a superintendent, which is sort of a boss of a big section. And in that time, I cut my teeth on dealing with unions and working with them, not against them, so to speak, but actually building relationships with them. And so my career sort of started to take a bit more of a turn of a sort of a technical leadership sort of direction as opposed to a technically focused person. But, you learn enough to be dangerous, around some of the basic technologies so that you can speak intelligently to the issues and help and support the actual guys and girls that are in the weeds trying to solve problems, which is really how I see myself, just in service to people to help them solve problems to make whatever business I'm in successful. So that's really how it all happened. And when I went to the US, 2010 or thereabouts, and at much sort of dissatisfaction from my parents and my in-laws at the time when we took our 6-month-old daughter to the US, and they were just happy to be grandparents. And then I
took her out there,
fucking off to Tennessee, and so then I was in Tennessee for 4 years, and then we moved. I got sort of poached out of there with a US based zinc business who just built this plant, and I was there in South Carolina and North Carolina for 6 years, and just worked sort of through that. So yeah,
because I heard you turned one of these zinc businesses around that it was struggling, and you were able to turn that business around, make it successful. Such a big operation. How did you approach that, and what problems did you have to solve?
Yeah, so when I got to that facility, they just spent like $400 million on building this plant in rural North Carolina. And it was like, for those that have seen that show Faulty Towers, the show, it was like the Faulty Towers of projects and operations.
Even after $400 million went into it.
Yeah, it was sort of everything that you should not do, they sort of did. I mean, you could write a book about how crazy what they did. They had mixers in the wrong place. It was just crazy. So
was it just inexperience? Why?
I think it was they had that sort of maybe a false sense of security. They just done a reasonably successful project in an area which they did know a lot about, and they thought, well, we can just do this here. I could do a whole podcast about that about that whole thing, but I think one of the classic stories from that was there was these transformers that were being delivered, and this was after I got there. This all happened. This is during the initial construction, like 2013 or something. These transformers were being delivered. They were like a 1 year delivery time. They were on a big long semi truck. It got stuck on a railway, and a rail train went straight through it. Like, that's how crazy that it was going on with that.
These are the problems you're dealing with,
which is like, so. Where are you? And you're sort of, you're not planning how you get there. Like, anyway, so there's lots of stuff there. And so I show up and they think, oh, Rob knows stuff about zinc, he'll fix it. And I was working alongside the GM at the time, and I was reporting to the CEO of that business. And when I got there, I was like, we need to shut this down and actually fix it. And what they wanted us to do was like change the tires on the car while we're flying down the straight at 300 kilometers an hour, which obviously it's quite a challenging undertaking.
You can't do.
So we ended it ended up going to Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and because it was listed on the New York Stock Exchange, the company, they burnt capital like you would not believe, and went into Chapter 11. We ended up being sort of owned by some vulture funds, I guess. These guys that look for distressed assets to turn them around and flip them into businesses. They bit off more than they can chew when they did that. Most of the time, they've just done strip malls and shopping centres and other things like that. This was a little bit different, but they were very patient in the end. And then Glencore came in for a bit of it, and which is a big multinational company, mining company, zinc company, and we spent about $180 million to fix the facility and start it up. So we had, when I joined, there was about 300 people there. We had to let them all go. The company's reputation was in the toilet. Then we started it back up and ramped up the employees again to 350 people, and now it's making money to the degree zinc plants can make money.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. And is it highly profitable now?
Yeah, it's profitable now. I mean, it's a commodity business, right? So you are at the whim of the commodity cycle for zinc in that instance. But yeah, it's profitable and can hold its own. Yeah,
that's fascinating. Can you explain why you have to pull right back and get rid of everyone? Is it because the culture was doing the wrong thing all the time and you couldn't fix it? Why did you have to pull that right back before rebuilding to the same level?
Cash, dude.
Okay, money. Okay,
yeah, we didn't have money to pay the bills.
Okay,
so
wow.
We kept a core group of people that were technical people to actually build out the business case to fix this facility and actually make it work correctly. And so we spent about 18 months putting that whole plan together and working with these funds, these guys that were trying to decide whether they want to be part of this or not. And because at the time, excuse me, at the time the tech that was being used was not common in the zinc industry. And so there was speculation that it actually didn't work. Mm-hmm. And so there was a bit of convincing to these sort of non-technical people that, no, it actually does work. And that actually was the one part of the plan that did work.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we did that and got convinced them of that. And then they wrote a check and we smashed it out in about 14 months and started it back up. And so that was a hell of a time.
Yeah, what a whirlwind.
Quite stressful when you're you're in this kind of constant sort of, you're trying to maintain morale and keep people excited about the fact, it's going to happen. And trying to retain those sort of core people that knew what they were doing was as much of the challenge as actually just putting the project together, because, people don't know they could just get fired tomorrow, because it's not a profitable business. And so we were just a massive cash sink on the broader company. So, and
then trying to sell it to someone else, I can imagine it's mission impossible.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to dealing with those challenges where every day you could be fired, how do you work positively in that environment? How did you get through that to then make it successful? Like, more the grit. What got you through it? What's your process of dealing with struggle and pain? Yeah,
so I was actually talking to my mates last night. We caught up for a impromptu dinner here, and it's just this idea of conviction, I think. And you have to, and talking from I try to encourage my people that work with me to talk from I, but I try to have conviction in what I believe in. So if I truly believe in what I'm doing and what I know is right, the chips will fall where they may at that point, right? And so that giving that and having that approach, I guess, perhaps gives confidence to others around you, and putting trust and belief in them, and that is how I sort of, I guess it's what's worked for me anyway, is in terms of maintaining that morale and keeping people going. The self-talk of well, like this could happen, that sort of catastrophizing of, well, what if this happens? Like, I couldn't let it get into my head, because if it does, it will consume. It would have consumed me and been, you're not able to make good decisions in that space.
So mentally strong and conviction for what you're doing. And I feel like when you really believe in something, I know my diving, if I have a bad comp and things aren't really going my way, if I believe I can, and I do believe that I can, it pulls you through everything, because you go train, you're like, it's shit today, but I know it'll get better because I'm going to make it better, and I believe in that. So it's a good message. Like, if you really believe in it, you'll be able to figure it out. And Alpha HPA, ultra high purified aluminum. For someone who knows nothing about it, what is it and why is it important?
So high purity alumina, and there's all these other high purity aluminium materials. They're used in it's like a specialty material in semiconductors for AI. Things like NVIDIA GPU chips, AMD GPU chips. High speed memory chips and things like that, but also for this process of polishing wafers, which is the substrate that semiconductors are built on for power semis, which power semis are basically transistors or switches that control high voltage and high power. There's a whole heap of them in your EV, Sam, for example. So they're in battery power packs, they're in fast chargers and things like that. And so there's high purity alumina in the semiconductor sort of AI application is all around heat management. So our material is used. If anybody's ever looked at like a CPU, it's got like this black sort of material sitting on top of it. You've sort of seen that. It's got the little prongs coming out the side of it, and so the prongs are like the little circuit connectors that connect to the circuit board. And then there's this flat black surface.
Yeah, like a black casing, like a square.
Yeah. So they call it packaging, like casing. Yeah, and so that is what's called thermal packaging. And it's a heat sink, basically. You could think about it like as an ice pack for the
keep it cool
for the semiconductor.
Gotcha.
And semiconductors, or aka computer chips, whatever, they operate faster the cooler they are. So, and the cooler they are, you can put more current through and therefore run more computations, which is when you hear like gigahertz or hertz of, that's the frequency, the rate at which you can run computations.
Yep. And
our material is being adopted into that application because it's sort of 27 times more heat or thermally conductive, so it transfers heat better than high purity silica.
It's like a better ice pack.
Yeah, it's a way better.
Okay.
It's a way better ice pack.
Awesome.
And so that is finding its way into those markets at the moment, and we're working with a number of the big players in that are sort of in Japan, US, and Korea and China as well. And in particular for these AI semiconductors, which and I think the one that most people will be familiar with would be thinking about the NVIDIA AI chips, which go into these AI data centers that when you use ChatGPT or whatever, there's a whole bunch of these AI data centers back behind there that's thinking about and trying to give you an answer to make a picture of my mum as if she just won a hot dog eating contest or something.
You can do it. That's amazing. And I've seen these big data centers with all the coolants to keep them cool because these computer chips run better and faster when they're kept at a good temperature.
Yep.
So your product will help these chips run faster because it's keeping them way colder?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, it's the way to think about it is they're going to continue to push the limits. It's like Formula One. Like if you can get another few computations a second that introduces more heat, but then you can whip that heat away, then that's what they're going to do. So as opposed to necessarily the chip running cooler, it just means it can run harder. So that's actually probably the better way to think about it. And then, yes, there's like heat exchangers that attach to the chip face that the thermal interfacing packaging that then draws that heat further, and takes it outside. That's the water cooling or even air cooling systems. I was in a Facebook data center in the US actually a few years ago. They heat their whole property with heat from the data center. So they don't have a heating bill.
Really?
In the winter, yeah.
They generate their heat
That's
from trying to cool down the data center.
Yeah, full on. And they're ejecting heat at the same time. Like it's not there's more than enough heat to heat the office.
It's insane. I suppose a simple example would be my iPhone. Yeah. When I leave it in the sun, it comes up with this warning it doesn't work. And these supercomputers, I can imagine, be hypersensitive to something like that. Do you have connections in the industry that you're trying to get this into already? Do you have partnerships lined up?
We're already selling small volumes of the material to the material makers that make that material, then sell it to the chip guys. So the what they called fabs. So the chip fabricators. The big one is a company called TSMC, which is the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. And they make chips on contract for companies which are called fabless chip designers. NVIDIA is a fabless designer. Apple is another one.
Oh, wow.
AMD is another one. So they do the chip design, but then they contract with TSMC to actually make the chip for them. So I think, I know Apple. I know those three are. I don't want to get into the details of which chips it is, but I know that there's some examples of that. Then you've got Intel and say Samsung and Micron. These are other. They're called integrated device manufacturers. They are the ones that are doing the design and have their own fab to manufacture the chips themselves.
I've heard these factories take nearly 10 years to set up or many years to set up, and that's nearly why Taiwan is such an important place because it makes all these chips.
Yeah.
How reliant is the world on these chips? Because I heard there's basically nearly an arms race to get the highest quality chips, get them now, get them fast.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think so. I mean, TSMC, for example, has announced a multi-billion-dollar facility in the US, for example. The Micron, I think, have also doing this. There's a lot of sort of friendshoring, if you know what I mean, of moving some of those companies, sort of setting up shop in a jurisdiction that is, let's just say, is a little bit more friendly, perhaps. Yep. That is a perceived sort of strategic risk if you're the US around TSMC. In being in Taiwan, but and of course China themselves are doing their own thing. They're also well and truly in the mix and making their own AI chips. They have had some challenges, but the one thing I know about working with China is that they will work it out.
Yeah. Well, my car,
they're sharp.
My car is incredible, like a beautiful car, Chinese car, and it just runs so smoothly. Yep. The best tech.
Yeah, no, they're brilliant.
So nice inside.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah. No, those guys are. There's so many more brands. I've spent a fair bit of time in China these last sort of 12 months, and one of the ones that struck me as really interesting was Huawei. So you probably know about Huawei and the sort of controversy around that in sort of the Western world, where they kind of said, no, we don't want to use Huawei products in say Australia or the US because of the concern about spying and whatnot. But Huawei has a car division.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so you can buy
Are they competing against XPeng?
And they're really, really nice cars. Wow. And what's funny is when you go into I was in where was it, Shanghai, and there's an Apple shop, there. Then across the road is the Huawei shop, and they're almost like a carbon copy of each other. They got the wooden desks, all that sort of stuff. The difference is in the Huawei shop, there's like 3 or 4 motor vehicles as well.
That's amazing.
So
building cars.
Yeah, exactly. And they are impressive. Like their mid-size SUV looks like a Porsche Macan. If you went across the detail that you would go, that's Porsche Macan.
Mm. Yeah. They do an incredible job building. Like the XPeng, I love the XPeng. I'd love to go over there. In fact, I'd love to be able to post on Chinese social media on Douyin and what's their message? WeChat. I'd love to be able to post my videos on those platforms. Yeah. So I want to try to get a Chinese number so I can share my videos
maybe
there
I'll hook
too.
You up and I'm over there next. I'll grab one for you.
Yeah, please do.
I can set you up with that, I reckon. Yeah,
please do. I've been trying to get it.
It's incredible, yeah.
So this product you make, for simplest terms, like what's your role in producing it? Do you mine it? Do you refine it? Do you give out the final product? What does Alpha PHA do?
So we we have a technology that's been homegrown here in Australia that does and makes this HPA in a very different way to our competitors do, and it's way lower carbon. It's way so by extension that's why it's much more sustainable. I won't bore you with the reasons as why, but it makes a much more pure version of the product, but also introduces some other forgive the chemistry lesson here, but some like morphology, crystalline morphology into the actual particle. One of the things that we use is scanning electron microscopes to actually look at individual particles that are so tiny that you can't see with the naked eye. It just looks like powder to the naked eye, like talcum powder or something. But when you look at it under these special microscopes, you see this sort of the shape of the individual particles, and that also, as a result of our technology, that is enabling it to outperform in those semiconductor applications of both the polishing one and the thermal packaging one. But in particular with the thermal packaging one, it's this lack of uranium and thorium, which are radioactive metals. We can remove them out, which emits alpha radiation if it's there. Alpha radiation has a very negative impact on the performance of an AI chip.
Is that why the company's called Alpha?
Well, no. The company's called Alpha because one of the phases of alumina is called alpha phase. They use the Greek letters like gamma, theta, alpha. And so once you achieve alpha phase, you've basically cooked it to a point where it can't be cooked any further. Yeah. And it's a very, very hard, very, very abrasive material once it's been turned into alpha phase alumina.
Wow. Yeah. So you're talking about taking your alumina, making it so high pure, and you're saying you're removing a level of radiation from that?
We purify. So we buy our material from Rio Tinto, like an aluminium feedstock. It's just got a bit of aluminium in it and what have you. They've done the mining part. We don't have to touch any mines. They've taken care of all that. They do a little bit of processing, so it's sort of 97% pure when it comes to us. And so then we put that through our purification process. We use this process called solvent extraction, which relies on special oils attracting aluminium and then floating on top, like water floats on oil floats on water.
Yep.
So that allows you to do the separation, and then that then can be turned into all these different products that we make that are very, very high purity. And so right now we've spent about $50 million on a facility in Gladstone that's running, which we call stage 1, that's doing about 350, 400 tons a year. And then we're right now in the process of commercialising the tech at full scale, which will be a 10,500 tonne plant right next door to that facility.
Congratulations.
And hopefully that'll be started up and running in 2027. So, massive work ahead of us there, but we're well into the construction of that. And we've been very lucky to receive some funding from the Australian government in the form of some debt, a little bit of grants, but mostly debt. And we enjoy that support from the Aussie government as well. So, which is great.
Well, it's good that we're supporting it, because to have breakthrough technology coming out of our country supports all Australians. Like, to have good industry here, I think, is what we need more than anything else. So Absolutely. It sounds like the work you're doing could really put us all on the front foot. Could we potentially make chips in Australia one day? If you have the coolant and you've got one of the highest qualities in the world, can we make chips here?
Look, it's a hell of a challenge. So there's a lot of jurisdictions, like countries, that are wanting to sort of build out some sort of a semiconductor or EV, supply chain, if you will. Anything's possible. I think the challenge is, again, getting, how do you attract a company like a TSMC, for example, to come to Australia? And there are hurdles for that. It's the ticket's huge, like multi-billions and billions of dollars. Then they think about, well, who knows anything about making chips in Australia? And it's sort of a little bit of a similar argument to why they kind of balked at the nuclear argument, not to wade into that one, but this kind of idea of, well, where's the experience come from? Now, I don't know. So I think it's possible, but I don't see that happening in the near future. I think it's because we're a small cog in the overall sort of production process, if you will, for a chip. So we wouldn't have quite the gravitas to attract.
Okay, gotcha. We got some coolant. Building the chip might come down the line. All right. All right.
So, I mean, in terms of that's one of the beauty of it for us is, they're not overly price sensitive in relation to the materials that we supply them for that purpose. It's extremely important to them, but it's only a very, very small component for that particular application of the total cost of the chip. I mean, those AI chips are $140,000 a piece. Like, it's a very different.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're not. They're not for your gaming.
Okay, yeah, not for the Fortnite games.
No, not for the.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe it'd give me an advantage.
Yeah, it could do. Yeah, I mean, it'd probably do it. Probably already know where the baddies coming from, mate.
I need some of these chips working in my business.
Maybe you'd be able to do a flossing dance or something way better than an
yeah.
Dance. I don't know.
Yeah, I spent 150 grand on that dance.
Yeah.
The boys will never let me live that down.
No.
Yeah. I think Ramon spent $5 on the dance and we gave him a hard time for it.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
It's good. It's good. So I feel like Australia really pulls our weight when it comes to like some breakthrough technologies, even in sport. Like for the nation our size, I feel like we do quite a good job.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Are you the first in the country doing this ultra pure alumina?
Yeah, in a commercial way, absolutely. There are others out there that are sort of having a crack, and they're sort of at a bench top, test tubes and beakers sort of stage. But this technology we have is the only one of its kind in the world, and nobody's been able to sort of do solvent extraction for aluminium anywhere else in the world. And so that's a major technical advantage that we have in the market, and so and I think what Australia is actually really good at is, we've got a long history of minerals processing, and obviously we're all familiar with the mining industry and all that sort of stuff. So, but also refining. So metals refining in Australia has been going on for decades, and that's where I started in the zinc game, which is all sort of what's called hydrometallurgy is the actual term. And we use a lot of those principles in what we do at Alpha HPA. It's just been adopted into a more of a chemical advanced materials sort of mindset. So a lot of the equipment that you see in our facility is stuff that I've tinkered with in a past life, but we've got very different chemistry going on inside as to how it works. And we protect that chemistry like Coca-Cola protects the recipe for Coke.
It's like a secret recipe.
Absolutely.
Is it locked away in a safe, this recipe?
I mean, it's not online.
Do you know it?
Yeah, I know it.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a handful of us that do.
Okay.
And so we it's not available online. Like it's not as in you can't sort of hack into us and get access to it. We keep it on a secret thumb drive and all this sort of stuff. So
wow.
Yeah,
that's actually kind of cool.
We have like an onion layers of protections around the IP, the intellectual property. Yeah,
that's insane. So it's protected by different people.
Yeah.
If for example, if the building burnt down, you lost the piece of paper, would you be able to rewrite it?
Yeah, we've got the know-how within the business to get it going again for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's not a concern. And a question that I get asked by anybody that's invested in the company. So what happens with, if that guy gets hit by a bus or whatever? And it's like, good one. So we do have those protections in place, and it's what you have to do. We've actually had foreign interference security training with the government as well, and because we are getting to that point where that could be a risk, and we're going to roll that out with our people as well, because when company and there's, I don't know if you saw in the news a while back, ASIO had that. There's a case where a lady was, or I think it was a lady, I can't remember, was leaking sort of secrets for a bit in a business, and they picked it up, and it was all foreign interference.
Yeah. It's good that we're aware and careful of it, and I suppose it's something you've got to be careful of, but also to a degree, it's kind of nice that you're doing something so important.
Yeah,
the world kind of wants to take it.
Yeah, I think that's where it could end up. And of course, a lot of the times they look at these things and wait to see if this thing really flies, right? And now, because our the commercial thesis of the business is starting to really sort of come to fruition in reality, that's when the attention is at its peak. Will get to its peak, and so we want to protect that very, very carefully.
And you're all about sustainability, and you're doing something that's traditionally unsustainable, but in a really sustainable way. How have you been able to make a higher quality product while doing it more sustainable?
Well, that's the great thing about the tech, right? So, and I think the simple example is the way in which it works. So our competitors have to buy finished aluminium metal from an aluminium smelter, and that's their feedstock. and aluminium is the most energy intensive material to make. It uses an immense amount of electricity, and as we know, we have a lot of renewables in this country, but most of our energy is either gas or coal fired, and so that's the challenge for the existing manufacturers. Our technology pulls the aluminium units way upstream from that process, so we avoid all of the carbon emissions associated with making aluminium, and so we're able to bring that in. Now, as part of that, we believe in doing the right thing, and so we use renewable electricity in our facility, which is more expensive. It costs more money, renewable electricity, than in industry than just buying regular regular electrons, if you will. But we think if it's important to us, and it's just to set an example, and so that's what we're doing. So we're sticking to our guns. We haven't sort of succumbed to making a couple of extra cents on the dollar or something like that. We think it's important. We want to be there front and center to be able to say that to our customers. Our customers like the idea that it's a low carbon product. They're not going to pay for it yet. They don't pay for it. One of the businesses that we have, we make sapphire as well. There's a sort of side business that we have. We're sort of dabbling in that at the moment.
Bit of side hobby.
Yeah, side hustle of sapphire.
Yeah. Okay.
And one of the customers we have, and so sapphire is on like your Apple Watch. If you've got an Apple Watch Ultra or an Apple Watch Series 10, there's an option with those to select the sapphire watch face. It's been on like Rolexes and luxury Swiss watches for decades.
Is it on yours?
Yeah, this is an Ultra 2. And
so that's a sapphire?
Yeah, that's a sapphire face. And the reason they use sapphire is because the only thing that's harder than sapphire is diamond. So it doesn't scratch. So scratch-resistant faces on like I said, on luxury watches are quite common, but now they've crept into wearables and sort of cheaper watches. And because they're scratch-proof, basically.
It's amazing.
And so, but interestingly, and I don't know who you are, what how much you care about this, but sapphire is the largest carbon emission associated with the production of a watch.
Why?
Because when you make sapphire, you're melting high purity alumina. But that's the connection, by the way, for us. You're melting high purity alumina at 2,000 degrees C. Mm-hmm. Takes a lot of energy to do that, and if you're doing that with material that's come from ultimately high carbon emissions from aluminium, and then you're using non-renewable electricity to do the melting, it's a high carbon intensive production process to make sapphire,
to make a watch face.
And so one of our customers makes watch faces for some of these Swiss manufacturers that you can think of. I think we don't know for sure, but I think they're doing it for Seiko and for Apple and others. They are actively seeking a lower carbon sapphire for their customer, but they're not necessarily going to pay for it.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's good that even though you're not getting the kickback from it, you're sticking to your guns and still using renewable energies and really just biting the bullet for the extra cost.
Yep.
If you can't pass it on to the customer yet. Because you've also called for more transparency in supply chains. What transparency do you have in your supply chains to make sure things are good, and why is that important to you?
So there is some legislation coming that's driving that too, that kicks in for us at least next year, this financial year that I guess we're in now.
Who's the member of parliament associated to this mostly?
Probably Chris Bowen, I reckon.
Bowen, okay.
There may also be some sort of finance sort of stuff around there because there's this sort of carbon accounting legislation, I think, around it.
He was on the podcast a few months ago.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. So Chris has been to site a couple of times, actually.
It's good.
Yeah, he loves it. And
has he asked to put a battery on it?
Yeah,
he's pushing batteries at the moment.
Yeah, I know. We at the time there was a lot of talk around hydrogen, and where we're based in Gladstone, there was a lot of a hydrogen bubble, if you pardon the pun, and unfortunately, a lot of those have popped lately.
Okay. They caught fire.
Yeah. Ask me how I know about hydrogen fires. I've dealt with those in the past as well. Yeah. So we, as part of that, we sort of have a way to track the carbon emissions from sort of some cradle to grave, basically. And that's something that we offer. Like our European customers, want to see that sort of supply chain transparency from essentially mine to end user, to you, as an example. And Europe's probably at the bleeding edge of all of that. And at some stage they may end up, the European Union may end up doing a price on carbon in some more material way. But it's certainly a key consideration in their decision-making process around, well, how sustainable are you? What are you doing to continue to improve and all that kind of stuff? So the beauty of it is, for us, compared to our peers, we're obviously way ahead of the curve because of our technology. But that doesn't mean we just rest on our laurels. We just continue to push. And I think the key is, though, that it's grounded in a bit of pragmatism. Like there has to be it's got to have some commerciality to it, right? Because the main thing is that you still have a business. You can't sort of let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I'm sure you've heard that saying many times. And so that's the balance.
And a good business supports the economy, pays taxes, keeps the country running. And when you're making advancements like that, we need companies like that in Australia.
Yeah.
That's what we want. We want these advancements. And I've heard your leadership style. You lean more into emotional intelligence, and you're able to. That's what I've heard. Maybe your guys have given you a good tip off.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Can you give me an example where you've used emotional intelligence over sheer business rationale?
Yeah. So it's sort of, the emotional intelligence is more about how you as a person can hold yourself in a situation where you're having a very challenging conversation with somebody. So, because maybe a simple example is with an employer that used to work for me when I was in the US, and this person was like a dedicated dude in terms of what he was doing, but he wasn't getting things done. He was saying yes to too many things, a whole bunch of issues. So he's gone his whole career. Nobody's ever pointed this out to him and what he actually needed to do, because in the meantime, he's pissing a whole bunch of people off. No, he's not delivering on a whole bunch of things. And so you sat him down, and it's just sort of plating that to a person in a way in which they're willing to digest it. It still can go sideways, and it did, right? But it's the ability to kind of hold yourself and hold that person in that moment and go, this is just this person trying to process this, and this is how they process it. It's not about me.
Not taking it personally.
Not taking it personally, the crazy insults or whatever that could be coming back.
I take it as he didn't take it very well.
No, he didn't take it very well, but because he was angry and mad and just thought I was an asshole, whatever. Yeah. And I sort of said, look, understand that, but take some time to have a think about it, and then let's talk again. And so I was, obviously remained calm and didn't take offense to what he was saying, because people process stress in different ways, and it's just giving a person the chance to sort of digest these things and work through it. So that sort of emotional intelligence, if you will, around dealing with that situation is how you can regulate yourself through a period of what's the word? A debate and anger or whatever that person's going through. And so, and of course, in the end, and as part of that, I didn't just say, pull your socks up, Sonny. It was like, here's some things that you can think about. But initially it was like, here's the message, go and have a think about it. Then let's talk about how I can help you to solve that. And he did go away, and he came back, and he was still a bit mad, but he said, well, what do I do then? And so we got through it, and probably 4 months later, he came into my office and he thanked me for it. And his life had changed. Like, he wasn't so stressed. There's all sorts of things, and so that was a great outcome. But it just, and that to me is better than just firing the guy and moving on, because that costs money too. Firing people was expensive because you got to go and hire somebody else, and then you lose intelligence in the company and experience and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's how you go. But I've had that go two different ways. Like, I've had one other person in that situation walk out the door. Yeah. That person's like, no, I'm not in for this.
Not for them.
And they left, and that's okay too. But it can't be about, it's not about me, and that's, you know what I mean? Like,
you don't take it personally.
Yeah, you can't take it personally because, and that gets back to the thing I was saying earlier, Sam, about the conviction. So having the conviction in your own mind that I know what I'm doing is right and fair and just is the part that makes that work. So that's I guess that's been my recipe so far.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, it's a good story.
Yeah.
You would have seen so many executives, so many top level business people. What do you think is the most common mistake people make? It sounds like maybe too stressed, doing too much. What do you think the mistake these people make, or that you observe?
I mean, I don't know. I feel
even if it's yourself. Who knows?
Yeah. Look, like, my mistake I make is certainly trying to do too much. You know, start of the year I was sort of entering burnout, for example, and I think I had the sort of thought process to sort of stop and go, this is not what I'm doing is not working. I'm diving.
At least you recognise that.
Yeah, and so then did some things to manage and arrest that, triage that situation, meditation, what have you. So, but I think it's just having that sort of ability to see what's happening in front of you and maybe pull yourself out of it before you end up down a hole. Is probably one of the challenges. I think the other thing that I think that myself and also some of the other senior guys in our business is that we've been very conscious to let the action speak louder than words as much as possible. So, and I think that lands really well in the long run. Like, so we're conscious to not be too spruiky, salesy about what we do. Just let the actions do the talking as much as possible, and then obviously speak to those outcomes, rather than kind of trying to be all over social media and saying whatever. It's just sort of, it's more about what is the outcome we're looking for. So there's a little bit of I don't know if you want to call it sort of modesty or letting those actions speak louder than words, I think.
I like that strategy too, because it's something you can control. Yeah. You can look inward and make the company better. If you got the best product, which you do, and it's pushing the boundaries, I think people are going to want it. It seems they really do.
Yeah.
Being an athlete too, like burnout is something you've always got to be careful of, especially when you get sick, you want to work hard, you got to push through, and then it gets a little bit worse. And I find the self-awareness of where I'm at, to step back, get more sleep, take more rest, try to do more fun things to turn it around without going down that rabbit hole, because it's so easy just to slip down.
Absolutely.
People could resonate with that, being a top business guy and dealing with that. What stopped you from going deeper down the rabbit hole, and how did you turn that around when you're at the beginning of the year, knowing that you got a big year in front? What'd you do?
So I offloaded, I think would be a term. And what that really looked like was actually cutting myself a break and being a bit kind to myself about things. So one of the things I've always tried to, or put undue pressure on myself, is to, if I expect a person in the business to do something, then I should too. So a simple, I know it's going to sound dumb, but a simple example is like processing my receipts for expenses. Jimmy has to do that when he has expenses. So what's good for him should be good for me. But when I'm so time poor, it's just another thing that just sits on your mind. So all those little sort of micro things that were just annoying, I just said, okay, I'm going to offload that stuff. And I have an EA, and she helps immensely, and she's happy to help. And so I really kind of given myself to outsource some stuff that I was just, out of some sort of sense of like wanting to hold myself to the same standard as I do everybody else. I was doing that, but in reality, nobody begrudges me asking, that somebody to help me in that regard. That's actually the reality. Nobody's got a problem with it, because they realise and understand that myself and some of the other guys are absolutely flat knacker. So there was a few things of that nature that were just practical. Okay, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just not going to do that anymore. Can you please do this for me? So it's way easier. So I just take a photo, email it to her, bang, easy of a receipt or whatever, and other things like that, parking, all sorts of crap.
So letting go and outsourcing,
just sort of admin-y stuff that I was just doing out of some kind of sort of misguided thing that I just want to feel like I'm with everybody else doing dealing with the same kind of crap. But
gotcha.
And then meditation. I started doing a lot of meditation in like in the morning when I get up. I sort of focused on exercise and other things like that, and so I was doing a little bit of that. I had a conversation with my wife and daughter about it as well. I just sort of said, look, here's where I'm from. So, if I'm a bit twitchy, that's why. And so, but so didn't want them to think that it was them, if I flip out or something. And that hadn't happened, but, it was just sort of letting them be aware of it. And then I gave myself permission to kind of do things like, for example, block out a morning to go up to Noosa and just go for a surf. And because that clears my head, I'm not Kelly Slater or anything. I used to surf years ago back in Tassie.
It's a surf park around the corner here. Have you given it a go?
No, I haven't. I should give it a crack. I have actually was lucky enough to have a crack at there's that Kelly Slater one in Abu Dhabi.
Oh,
that
okay.
was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But very hectic. Not the meditation experience.
Okay. Yeah.
Sitting at
crisis management skills.
Yeah, it's much more. Yeah, absolutely hectic sort of experience doing that. But I just enjoy sitting out in the ocean, and it just sort of reconnects me back to what's important and what have you. So I did a little bit of that and everything. Yeah, so it all kind of came together, and I sort of climbed out of it. Sort of avoided getting too far down it. But yeah, so it wasn't anything groundbreaking. I didn't start yoga or anything like that. It was just sort of some basic things, and so I think a little bit of meditation, making sure I was getting sleep, and that sort of turned it around.
Those small things can make so much of a difference. Even just doing something you find fun.
Yeah.
My coach used to always explain it to me, like, you're on these skis going down a mountain, and you don't need to make these 90-degree turns because you'll go off the rails, you'll start spinning. So normally it's just 1 or 2 degrees to avoid the rocks. Down the mountain, whether it's doing something fun or doing a bit of meditation or just taking a bit of pressure off, because you're doing the 90%. You don't need to stop that. It's just those small things that help, because when I go through tough times at training, it's giving myself the space to do something fun, like
you got
going to the beach, going somewhere warm, a bit of traveling.
Clear your head. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think that's spot on. And I think that, and giving it, but it's actually the mental decision to give yourself permission to do that, right? Like that's
schedule it in.
Yeah, precisely. Like I do exactly that. Like I schedule in. I've got 2 sort of gym sessions that I do a week, and they're kind of sacrilege. I just will never cancel those unless I have to travel, and then I'll try to schedule another time. But yeah, if I'm in town, then I just always go to it. Yeah.
For young people who want to get in the business today, where do you see the opportunities now and for the next 5 to 10 years? If I'm 18, 19, wanting to do well for myself, what would you recommend?
So I would recommend a trade, as for sure. The country needs more tradespeople. It's a real focus for us. Obviously there's certainly going to university, doing a process engineering, chemical engineering, any engineering degree is would also be highly, welcome and well received. Yeah. There's not enough of them as well. But the trades are in huge demand, and there's sort of, it's kind of like almost like 2 types of trades. There's tradies that people think about in terms of construction, and then there's sort of trades that are in sort of ongoing operations like ours. And there's sort of a little bit of a different skill set. You might still go and, become a sparky or something, but there's a difference between a sparky perhaps in a construction mindset versus a sparky that's working in an operating facility. There's a lot like troubleshooting and problem solving in an operating facility versus construction. It's just all new build. You're pulling cables and what have you, as an example. But so that's certainly a big one. Alpha's we enjoy a really good sort of diverse workforce. We've got about 40% women in the workforce, and we've done that by hiring kind of on attitude, to be honest. Like, we've got people in the business that have not come from industry. But we've done it on the idea of, well, what's this like as a person? What's this person like? Are they a cultural fit for the business? Are they coachable? Those sorts of questions. And so we spend a lot of time understanding that about the individuals that apply to come and work for Alpha, because we can train them in the technology. We can teach them how to run the equipment, whatever it is, and that's fine. But you can't. It's so much harder,
attitude,
to buy that energy and that attitude. It's either there or it's not.
Is that the one thing you look for when hiring people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Attitude, personality.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and so we always look for that, and we'll pick that person over perhaps somebody that may have more experience in some cases, or in many cases. In fact, I mean, when we initially started up the plant in Gladstone, the stage 1 plant, we had a conscious decision to pick 4 people out of a group of 30 that came from completely outside any kind of heavy industry. We wanted some heavy industry folks because they have a certain understanding around safety, which is very important. Like, they've got a bit of a lizard brain that says, you must not do that. Like golden rules, they already understand it's already baked in, and that's helpful.
Those simple rules are the ones I can understand.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly, like, do not work on live equipment because you will get electrocuted. Stuff like that. And so, but then we brought in somebody that was a butcher, somebody that was a real estate agent admin person, and completely unrelated, pharmacist, no industrial experience, and that also taps into a bigger part of the workforce, particularly on the women's side of the equation, where they tend to be in some of those other kind of roles, and they've been some of the most successful. Those people are still working in the business now, and they're extraordinarily successful in the company for us, so we continue to sort of work in that way.
And what's your dream for the company? Where are you at now, and where do you see it in 5 to 10 years and the desired outcome?
So we what we want to do is prove out that there is a broader demand for these materials. It's not just one big facility in Gladstone and then done. And we see that genuinely. If you want to stat, the annual growth rate of AI data centers is like 36% year on year. It's just prodigious. And compare that to EV stuff, it's which is around 17%. Even that's considered quite significant, although some are seeing that sort of flatten out a little bit because it sort of hit a bit of resistance with sort of like the charging infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. But so that piece is around demonstrating the fact that we have enough material or enough demand from our customers in that semiconductor market, in the EV market, et cetera, that warrants another big facility to be built somewhere in the world. And that would be the next logical step for us, which we are thinking about and looking at, and we've kicked off some concept studies around where's the next big plant. Even though we haven't built this one, we are looking at where the next big plant is, and so that's a major one. And so I think it's just we just continue to find pockets of where our markets that where our materials just outperform because of the nature of the material compared to our competitors. So that's really the key. We have a huge focus on culture in the business. We work with the teams on also around how they can, we've given them sort of training on how they can regulate their nervous system and manage stress for themselves and feel supported. And the big thing we talk about is trust. And so what we have in the business right now, I think, is overwhelmingly a really strong culture of care, and that is to say people care about the business, they care about each other. We want to hang on to that as long as we can, and that gets harder and harder as the business grows. Yeah,
I was going to say that culture would nearly be the greatest asset. Like coming to work in a good environment, employee retention would save a lot, but even just having a good place to work.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that as you grow?
So I love symbols, Sam. So how you feel when you drive in the driveways is important. So even though a cool, garden or sign or whatever, it doesn't create, you can't take that to the bank. But how you feel when you drive in, walk in the door, do you feel invited into the business? It starts there. So that it's all about creating those symbols. What they wear. Like I made a conscious decision to say we're not going to put people in convict high vis, and so they're very proud to be in the uniform that they wear. And and there's this trust around, if I know you need to do something where you do need to be highly visible, put a vest on. And so that's the conversation that we have with everybody is that I trust that you guys can make those decisions yourselves, not disengage your brain when you walk in the door. And so there's a lot of that, and so symbols is a big thing for me in terms of what does that mean for people when they walk in the door? Things that we do. We have awesome espresso machines in the not pods, actual proper cafe.
Okay.
semi-commercial espresso machines in the business. So if people want a great coffee, they love coffee. Aussies love our coffee.
We do.
Make themselves a cracker of a coffee. And they all say, yeah, we come in here, the first thing I love it, I come in, I make myself a nice double shot latte.
Love it. Yeah.
And it's great because, if you think your business is going to live and die on International Roast or Nescafe Blend 43, you've got the wrong arrowing end of the stick.
Yeah, how to build $1 billion business, get a coffee machine.
Okay. Pretty much. And it's a cheap investment, man. It's not very expensive.
Yeah. A little bit up front, big investment, long term. Exactly. I like it.
We're running on caffeine, man. We're just running on caffeine.
Best investment a business can make.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time coming on today, Rob. Thank you.
Awesome, mate. Yeah,
it's been amazing.
It's been great. Thanks for the time. Yeah, good to see you. Yeah.